What is genetic engineering? Genetic engineering is when the genetic code of an organism is altered to produce a desired trait. This is done by taking a gene from one and inserting it into the DNA of another to get the wanted result. Before heading into this, we should first understand how DNA works. In any living organism, its DNA acts as the blueprint for the body. Certain genes code for certain proteins, which in turn make up all the different parts of the organism. Any trait that you could think of, such as color, shape, and size, is coded by DNA. Once you understand the codes, you can use genetic engineering to essentially edit the parts you want to some extent. All living things use the same genetic code made from the same four bases, so scientists can use special enzymes to cut parts of the DNA from one living thing and attach them to the DNA of the target, resulting in the organisms containing a new feature from the associated gene. An example of genetic engineering is in agriculture. Natural selection tends to favor plants that compete for light, water, and nutrients, defend themselves from being eaten, and disperse their seed all over long distances. These characteristics are in direct conflict with the goals of agriculture, where farmers want their plants to invest as many of their resources as possible into making nutritious, easy to harvest products. Genetic improvement has been an essential aspect of improved agricultural productivity for centuries, with modern crop varieties being much higher yielding and generally more nutritious than their wild ancestors. Even with our modern crop varieties, continued improvement is both possible and necessary to meet growing demand. New characteristics can be introduced into crops using either conventional crossbreeding or genetic modification. The characteristics of all living organisms, such as color, shape, and size, as mentioned before, are determined by their genes and their interactions with the environment. With improvements in our knowledge about which plant genes do what, we now know many genes that could contribute to improving sustainable food production. In some cases, conventional breeding will be the best way to deploy these genes. That is by crossbreeding the crop variety with a plant that contains the genes providing these characteristics. Whereas in other cases, genetic modifications where scientists take a gene and insert it directly into a crop might be easier or perhaps the only way it could be deployed.